When fascism creeps in, it doesn't wear jackboots, it wears a suit, sits in a hearing, and pretends to balance the budget. Let's break down today's disgraceful charade.
On Capitol Hill today, senators questioned President Trump's budget director, Russell Vought, over the administration's proposed funding cuts to foreign aid and public media. Our congressional correspondent, Lisa Desjardins, was there and joins us now for an update. Okay, so Lisa, tell us what you learned today and remind us what's happening here, why this all matters.
Right, it matters for two reasons. One, this is a first and key test of the Trump and Doge Elon Musk philosophy for cuts. Does Congress actually agree with the specifics here? Second, a lot is on the line here for foreign aid, billions of dollars that would affect communities overseas, and also 2 years of funding for public broadcasting. We did learn some things today from Vought. We learned more about exactly what he thinks the administration is doing here. And he said the cuts that they're doing are broad on purpose because they don't trust the NGOs, the sort of nonprofits that have been administering them. He said they're too liberal, and he says the point is that they need to be cut off.
We don't want to re-up the same spending to the same NGO with a different grant title. That's not success here. And so it will take some time for us to be able to find the types of groups that can dispense these funds in ways that are consistent with this administration's priorities.
And he argues they're also against American priorities. Now, part of this revolves around global health money, which includes PEPFAR and money for HIV prevention. That's very controversial. Many senators want to keep it. He said there is no life-saving dollars or funding that's being cut here, but senators were skeptical and, in fact, raised examples that they say show he's wrong. Senator Susan Collins, the chair of the committee, said she was skeptical.
I know for a fact that both of these products, which are made entirely in America, are being held up. This peanut butter-based supplement is in a warehouse.
Now, Vought didn't have a direct answer on that. He said, I think we're funding it. But Collins and multiple other Republicans also raised concerns for local public broadcasting, in particular radio stations in Native American territory.
So what are the expectations at this point? I mean, are these cuts on track to pass?
It's hard to say. To be honest, the timing here matters quite a lot. So I want to take people through what's going to happen here. First, the Senate is likely to change this bill, I think, when it gets to the floor. Now, the Senate has to vote on this. The plan is after it votes on the so-called big, beautiful bill. The deadline for the rescissions package is July 18th. So these deadlines aren't matching very well. In all, my reporting is that the committee is not going to take a vote. This will probably go directly to the floor after July 7th. There'll be a short window to change it. If it was a secret ballot vote, Jeff, I think this would fail. But it is a test of how people want to show in public their support or not for Donald Trump. It is close, and it's up to each of just a handful of senators to decide.
That July 18th deadline, after that it expires entirely?
That's right, correct.
Which is unlike the July 4th self-imposed deadline that President Trump set for the big, beautiful bill.
Correct. If it doesn't get through Congress by July 18th, the funding stays.
Lisa Desjardins, what don't you know?
A lot.
Thanks for being here. Appreciate it.
Welcome to the Republican Playbook. Slash and burn anything that isn't a corporate donor. Russell Vought, Trump's budget hatchet man, straight up admits they're gutting foreign aid and public media, not for efficiency, not for fiscal responsibility, but because they don't like the ideology of NGOs. Translation: if you're not parroting right-wing talking points, you don't deserve funding. This isn't budget policy. It's political retribution masquerading as reform. It's the weaponization of government to crush dissent, cutting funding to liberal causes simply because they represent ideas Trumpism can't control. But it gets darker. What happens when courts demand justice and the administration just shrugs? Let's get into a hearing moment that should terrify every American.
So if this package passes, do you intend to send more rescission requests to Congress?
Senator, that's up to the president. It's certainly an option. It's an option that I've stated publicly that we will strongly consider, but that's up to the president. And it's, we will take that on a week-by-week basis. But there is more, honestly, than $9.4 billion that we've identified. There's $163 billion in fiscal year 26 that we have identified for less spending than
So these
prior
were bills
budgets.
that this committee approved on a bipartisan basis. How many packages are you talking about, and what are they?
Again, we have no decisions on those have been made, but we do want to see how successful this effort is. When I went through the confirmation process, you specifically were reminding me of the Impoundment Control Act's process to be here and to bring forth rescissions if we find waste, fraud, and abuse, and to give Congress an opportunity to vote on those, and that's what we're here to do. And,
Well,
again, I think you're also making a point about process. From Gerald Ford to Bill Clinton, it was totally normal for the appropriations process
Correct,
to
and I
consider
will just
rescissions.
remind all of us that the Appropriations Committee worked on those in a bipartisan way. They were not partisan packages that were sent up. So what I'm hearing you answer me is that there will be more. You don't know how many more, but there will be more. So this committee and this Congress could spend a lot of time going forward on requests for cuts if this package passes. Director Vought, when asked about this request, you have said that no matter how Congress acts on this request, impoundment is still, quote, on the table. And in an acknowledgement of how unpopular your cuts to bipartisan priorities are, you even publicly said you may well try to do an end run around Congress by requesting rescissions in the last 45 days of the fiscal year, and then pretending that even if Congress fails to approve them, you can rescind those funds anyway. So let me tell you, that is not how the law works. The president does not have a line item veto, much less a retroactive line item veto. Your notion of this pocket rescission defies common sense and, by the way, the plain text of the law. Director Vought, will you commit to this committee that you will not attempt to do an end run around Congress with this so-called pocket rescission, something members on both sides of this dais have made clear is outright illegal?
Senator, there's a lot of mischaracterizations into my previous comments. I would just say that we believe that we have, under the law, numerous options with regard to how to achieve savings, including rescissions that are timed at the end of the fiscal year. General Accounting Office has articulated that earlier
right?
in the life of the
This should
Impoundment
be a
Control
yes
Act.
or no, and what I hear you is all kinds of word salad to make sure that you are letting us know that you intend to do things that are outside the intent of the law. And it has also been reported that you are considering sending Congress a massive deferral package under the ICA in an attempt to run out the clock and avoid legal scrutiny of this administration's illegal freeze before ultimately impounding the funds at the end of the fiscal year. Can you commit to this committee that there will be no deferral package?
We certainly are aware of the deferral provisions in the Impoundment Control Act. There are specific statutory requirements there that if we are in a situation where funds may meet those definitions, they are certainly on the table. But again, we have made no decisions. The president has not made any decisions with regard to those different tools that exist. And so I'm here to talk about one package. There's been one decision on one package, $9.4 billion.
Director Vought, I just want to be clear to all of us about what's going on here. You are actually telling Congress, in total disregard for Congress's Article I powers, that you and the president will just impound or rescind funds that you don't agree with on your own. And Congress, I will say to all of my committees, should not stand that from this president or any president in the future, and I think that's really important as we consider this. Quickly, Director Vought, to justify the $8.3 billion you propose in foreign assistance, you've argued that these funds were used by the Biden administration for woke programs or things not aligned to Trump priorities. That's not how this works. Whatever the Biden administration may or may not have done, most of what you are proposing, as has been talked about here, to rescind is Congress provided this administration in the FY25 CR, the same CR that President Trump signed into law in March. And while Congress has provided instructions for target countries and sectors and purposes, this administration has flexibility to determine how best to meet those bipartisan objectives. So you are waving around a tiny cherry-picked list of past initiatives funded by those accounts. It's irrelevant when the simple fact that you and this administration now determine how those funds are being provided by Congress and are specifically put to use. And yet, conveniently, you have not spelled out for this committee and the public what you plan to cut if this package passes, even if you ask us to vote on it.
Let me translate the legalese for you. I don't remember is Washington code for I did it, but I'm hoping you can't prove it. Emil Bove, Trump's criminal defense lawyer, let's not forget, is being nominated to the federal bench. That's like appointing your getaway driver as the chief of police. The man is accused of floating the idea that the Department of Justice should flat out ignore court orders. Think about that. Not appeal, not challenge, just ignore. This isn't just rogue behavior. It's autocratic insanity. Schiff lays the trap, and Bove's limp no recollection is all the confirmation we need. This is what Trump's judicial revolution looks like. Cronies who bend the law until it breaks, then pretend they forgot where they put the pieces. And the GOP, silent, complicit, cheering from the sidelines while democracy gets a knife in the back. Let's be clear, this is not about budgets, aid, or vague government waste. This is a hostile takeover of the American system by extremists who don't believe in limits. They don't trust NGOs, so they kill the programs. They don't like court rulings, so they nominate cronies who will ignore them. Today's hearings weren't just political theater. They were confessions. Confessions that the Trump agenda isn't about governance. It's about control, about silencing media, gutting public platforms, dismantling oversight, and replacing it all with loyalists who serve one man, not the Constitution. And if you think this ends with a budget vote or one court nomination, you haven't been paying attention. Every hearing like this chips away at rule of law. Every evasive answer, every forgotten quote is a brick in the wall of authoritarianism that they are desperately trying to build. Don't wait until it's too late to see it. If you're not outraged, you're not paying attention. Subscribe to Malcolm Varon Hearing and help us expose this rot before it's cemented into power forever.